Hi everyone, welcome to our Instagram Live. My name is Joseph Valencia. I'm a curator and educator with the Vincent Price Art Museum. And today we're going to speak with Noé Olivas as part of our program, our virtual program, VPAM in the Studio. So, it's about 30 minutes of time together talking. It's a bit brief, but we're just going to chat about art, about artist-run spaces, and just different connections between them. Hi everyone, hi. Nice to see your comments. So I'll be doing a brief intro to Noé, and then we'll loop him into the Instagram Live. So Noé is an artist and educator who's exhibited across Southern California in various different contexts. He's also a gallerist, organizer, and co-founder of the Crenshaw Dairy Mart in Inglewood, and is an inaugural professor in the MFA of Social Environmental Arts Practice program at Prescott College. So his work has kind of taken a lot of different forms and has focused a lot in something that he's coined the poetics of labor. And I've, over the years of knowing Noé for I think a little over 2 years now, I've noticed different ways that that's manifested, right? Different medium and also in different kind of collaborations. So looking forward to kind of diving deeper into what that means and hearing from Noé himself. So I'm going to go ahead and add him to our chat. Let's see. There he
Yo,
is.
what's up, Joseph? Thank you for
Hey,
that
how are you?
introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on here. And hello to everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Your hair looks awesome. You got the mane going on.
I try to, wash my hair every 3 days, just to keep it nice and clean. It could get dirty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, welcome. And we're here. We
Thank
made
you.
it. Um, and yeah, for those that are joining us, Noé and I have known each other for a few years now, and have been able to watch his practice kind of diverge and grow in so many different ways. It's been really exciting. So I'm excited to kind of talk a little bit about that, but also, like I shared, also talk about different spaces that you've been part of and kind of how does that intersect with the art making practice, or also how is that critical or central to the work itself too.
For
um,
sure.
so I have like different images, and it could be image led, but feel free to just go for it. But I think maybe it'd be helpful to start with something super recent and think about connections um, going backwards as well. So could you tell us a little bit about what this image is and your involvement with this space in the show?
Yeah, for sure. So right now, actually, the past, I believe, 5 weeks, I've been working closely with Carlos Beltran, Stephanie De La Torres, and also Evan Apalaca um, on this project, basically at Best Practice, a space in San Diego. But I brought that team along because they're part of this gallery space, grassroots organized space in San Diego called Voz Alta. And Voz Alta is a very dear space to me. I came out of that space, the third generation version of it. It had three different locations, two in downtown San Diego, but kept getting pushed because of gentrification, and then landed in the historic place of Barrio Logan, and that's where I came in as a young artist. And somehow through a group of friends, actually Ricardo Islas introduced me to Carlos Beltran, which was running the space at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of really just fell in love with it. And now we're kind of revisiting it because they don't currently, Voz Alta doesn't have a space. And Best Practice invited me to do a show. And I just felt the Best Practice is actually located also in Barrio Logan. And I just felt, you know what, like I really want to do a project bringing back Voz Alta and archiving. And this is something that Carlos Beltran already kind of had in his mind. It's like, yeah, we got to archive these stories And yeah, just kind of doing that work right now. We've had a lot of artists come through, a lot of activists come through, a lot of poets kind of doing interviews, and also actually, they just started painting on the walls, which I love. They just kind of just went at it, and it's kind of interesting, especially during these COVID times. How do we bring folks together as safe as possible, and also be creative, and at the same time, like, this project is very much about healing through that creative process, and how do we stay connected.
Right.
But that's the current project I'm doing right now. And a lot of those teachings have definitely kind of moved towards Crenshaw Dairy Mart, which I'm part of that collective with Alex Stories and Patrice Colors, and just taking those teachings and just kind of see it and evolve in different ways.
Right. So I have an image with the founders right there. There's the team.
Yeah, that's the family right there. I love them so much.
Can you tell, for folks that maybe don't know about CDM, can you talk a little bit about the space and some of the thinking behind finding that space, and also the community and like family, like you said, that you've been building?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we actually we all went to school together at USC, and within our like second year, we all kind of knew that we want to continue to play. 2 years of grad school wasn't enough for us, so we developed our own third-year program, and now it's kind of becoming a lifetime program type of thing. And Patrice actually invited us to that space. She got invited by one of her caretaker. She has a child, and she was trying to start a preschool, and it's two buildings. And basically, Miss Carla invited Patrice, say, hey, there's this building, you got to check it out. And then ended up being this like this beautiful old school 1960s liquor store. So much character. And when she brought us along and showed us, it was like, we're just like, wow, like, we couldn't, like, the space of it, and just a lot of history behind it when we think about like these liquor stores and how many people have moved in that space, in and out of that space. But yeah, we got invited, and it was a project that Patrice and Alex were kind of like talking about in our second year of grad school. And like, I was like, hey, what are y'all talking about? Yo, let me know, how can I support with all this?
Right.
And we just kind of talked it out, and we were first looking at some property at the Antelope Valleys, because we were thinking about how do we free the land, like, what's it mean to free the land, what's it mean to own a piece of property to do your thing, and especially during these times where we're kind of like thinking about care, basically.
Right.
But basically, we sat on this spot for 2 years. We didn't necessarily do anything. We were just kind of sitting down, brainstorming, listening to our neighbors, cleaning up the location, the trash, just making it feel nice. And little by little, we just kind of started to build up. And we got invited with For Freedoms to do basically our first opening, which Alex and Autumn they curated a show on Measure R that was on the ballot to basically dismantle that $1 billion jail that they were trying to do. And now it's leading to Measure J, to reinvest that money into, education,
Right.
basically all about care. How can we like invest in this idea of care?
Yeah.
Basically, like Alex likes to say, we were birthed out of this pandemic. We sat on the property and we went at it. And we also invited, that mural right there is actually by a good friend that actually lives in the neighborhood, Oto Ata Abasi. young artist and brilliant, and he collaborated with Paul Cullors, Patrice's brother, and basically giving tribute to, we call that mural Saint Nipsey, just because the things that he did for the neighborhood, how he reinvested his money into his people, his family, you
Right.
know, and that's the same thing, and we wanted to do that, you know, and luckily I got to, like, you know, help Otto and Paul, just kind of being there, scraping the wall, preparing it, and just kind of just seeing them do their magic, you know. It's such a beautiful thing, and that's how the space is. Like, people come, and the energy that they put into it is just kind of like it's all a team effort.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen so many different types of gatherings that you've had, even like a little bit before, of course, before the pandemic too, you know. And I was just thinking, like, you know, when you go to the website that you all have, there's like those big three words that say ancestry, abolition, healing. And it's like those words have a lot of power. And I think about them a lot in relation to your work and some of the kind of, I guess if you want to call them programming or gatherings that you all have been organizing there. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about, like, what types of things you've done there, you know, aside from, you know, the art aspect of it, but more so like the community side of things, or use it as a platform.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, since right after that show, Measure Art show, basically, you know, we went into that COVID, basically everything got shut down. And
Mm-hmm.
right away, Patrice was like, what can we do in order to support our artists? And we started this relief fund, and we were able to support three artists, and then also I believe it's like either like seven or eight artists that were incarcerated, and kind of like put that to their books. Um, and yeah, we were just kind of like, in any way that we can show up and just kind of be part of the community. And then also Jake Freilich, actually what I do also want to say, which is also really amazing, on the other side, we have the gallery side, but we also have the studio side that we have also the people that we went to grad school, Star Montana and Jake Freilich, like amazing people, amazing folks to have that conversation. And you know, Jake basically started this whole art kit, you know, and other folks were also part of that. Just kind of like, how can we, you know, keep this idea, or how can we see this moment, and especially during the uprisings, as teaching the ideas of imagination, and it's going back to
Right.
these art kits. And we were able to collaborate with Lauren Halsley, with her community center, Some of Everything, that she's like giving out, you know, every week 400, 600 boxes of food weekly. We are able to contribute 200 art kits, as much as we can. So just kind of like doing little things, showing up for the community. And then right now, currently, actually working with the Homies Collective, Juice and Burn, good people from the neighborhood. Basically, they started the Inglewood Community Fridge. So right now we have a
Right.
fridge outside, so folks could come in and grab, you know, some good food. You know, so it was really great to collaborate with them, because they brought in artists. They decorated the fridge. You know, their stocking. I actually ran into to Vern this morning. You know, he was doing his you know, Instagram live, just kind of say hello, which is so awesome how you know, all people are coming into the space and contributing different projects, you know, which I love, and I love working with them, because we're learning so much as like we're like supporting, like I feel we're also learning a lot. Like Alex
Yeah.
and I are always constant talking about, like, oh yeah, man, like it's tough work, you know, it's organizing, it goes so quick, but it's just like, oh, I'm so tired. I was like, yeah, but we gotta, you know, we always remind ourselves we gotta keep on going, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually, I see the fire with Ruben Ochoa. I got to give a shout out to him, because he's also kind of contributing to the project, as well as he's creating these prints that say vote or vota. Oh, excuse my Spanish, man. I'm just little pocho over here, you know, and then vote, and then also in Mandarin, and these prints that he's developing, and you know, those funds are going to the Crenshaw Dairy Mart, Artists for Democracy, and DPN, which is amazing, you know, just kind of like doing those projects and supporting him in any way that we can. There's just like Crenshaw Dairy Mart is just all about collaboration at the end of the
Yeah.
day, through that creative spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I think about on the one hand, you know, the different art that you've made, like different sculptures, prints, but also a lot of performance. And I noticed, especially like towards, you know, your last year at Roski, like thinking more about performance, but also like the relationship to different kind of collaborations, right? And so even like this work here, it's dangerous times. We have to be connected with you and Patrice Colors. I mean, it's resonating. I think about it so much when what you were just sharing right now. You're saying like, how do we stay connected and present during this moment, right? A racial justice moment, even a pandemic, you know, like, and just staying together and thinking about collective kind of organizing and art kind of intersecting with that. Do you want to talk a little bit about like this project, or I mean this performance, I should say?
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely talk about that performance. We've done that performance a couple times. The first time we actually did it, which is really special, was for actually Patrice's critique in our studio class, and actually Edgar Arsenal was the
Right.
professor at that time, and I mentioned to Patrice like, hey, like I just want to smoke weed, be part of artwork, like how can we do this? And we just kind of sat down and just kind of like talked about like different things and rituals and what that means and
Mm-hmm.
how to respond during these times, but also like there's this trust, like the thing I like about our collaboration, there's so much trust and a
Yeah.
lot of respect, like and also that creative freedom, like we're able to kind of like you do your thing and I'll do my thing, but like at the same time it's not quite separate, it's also very cohesive and harmony. I mean, we're both Geminis, so we just kind of like naturally kind of, and you're also a Gemini too,
I'm a
so
Gemini too.
you, yeah, so we just got that
It's
Gemini
all
spirit
coming
going
together.
on. Yeah, it's all coming together, but like we do this ritual, and basically, like I take on the character of the sleeping Mexican, instead of like seeing this figure, this stereotype figure as like a drunk Mexican or a lazy Mexican. There's just so much
Mm-hmm.
history behind it, and thank you again for giving me the phenomenon of the sleeping Mexican. Like I'm
Oh,
definitely
yeah, this
been kind of
book.
like, yeah, it's just kind of like looking about the origins and just kind of where it's coming from, but also how do we link this up? But that teaching of like, just how do we change these stereotypes? How do we rewrite the history of these things? And this is kind of like the performance. I take on that figure and become the healer and become a healer with Patrice, relationship to each other as we do communion, we do ritual, we talk to, mostly she talks, it's like I'm very quiet, except in this performance at the MoMA, I did talk, and I was like each time like the performance, that's what I love about performance, sometimes things kind of change as you re-perform, and new things
Mm-hmm.
come out. um, but that one was really special too, because we got to do it in that location, which is like, I love Alex because he's always like research based, and he was mentioning how that building was actually a storage for police cars, so it's like coming into
Oh,
these
wow.
spaces
The Geffen building.
that, yeah, the Geffen building, that have like a history of policing, and doing these rituals and creating these portals of freedom, and like opening this conversation of like how can we stay connected, but also in relationship to Barbara Cooper's mural, which was kind of special.
Right.
And like part of this ritual, like there's always like a protection part of it, leading folks to a specific place, and just doing our thing, and that, we'll light it up. We bless each other, and bless other folks, and they bless us. That's the way that we stay connected, but also keeping each other accountable about that. I think that's another thing that I've been really thinking about is accountability and respect, and how can we, stay connected with like healthy boundaries, or accountability that's involved in that too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many layers, and I feel like there's so many different ways. Like I got, how we talked about different little images to share, and like, we could easily dive into more about this image, right? The sleepy Mexican, but we could also think about different projects at the Dairy Mart too. So I'm curious, what are you interested in sharing a little bit more about within our time here?
About the Crenshaw Dairy Mart?
Yeah, if you want, it's if these are your two paths here, if it's Dairy Mart, or talking a little bit more about the art, the
Yeah,
material objects.
yeah, you know what? It's kind of interesting. Like, there's like this practice of like, performance, practice of sculpture making. There's this practice of like social engagement, community work. Like I'm learning not to separate them. And the
Right.
more that I learn not to separate them, the more cohesive they end up being. Like that BLM sign, like that's one of the first sculptures that when we first got to the mart, I was telling the teams like, oh, we have to put a BLM sign on top of that roof because we were underneath the flight path of LAX,
Right.
and to make that, like art is all about art. It's about mark making, and that type of mark where we have this like BLM, like people that are coming into Los Angeles knowing what we believe in,
Yeah.
and not being very transparent about it too. And in the daytime, and it was really cool because I got to collaborate with one of my homies from high school, Dejanel Catlin. He has this company called Engineering with Purpose, and also um, Trey Borden helped out with all that stuff, and then the team at the Dairy Mart, we just kind of made this happen. And I think like under a week or a week and a half, just kind of like building this sculpture and navigating each other too, because like it's like so much was happening, and we had to like gather materials and have a lot of problem solving during the way. And this was basically the prototype, and it's on top of the Crenshaw Dairy Mart. It's in the colors of Los Angeles, yellow and purple, Lakers won. So I mean, like, it's very much like using those symbols, of what Los Angeles is. But then at nighttime,
Mm-hmm.
it's just black, and the lights just shine. They shine, and
It
and
transforms.
it transforms, and it lights up at 8:46, in honor of George Floyd and all the other folks that, police brutality, all that stuff. Like, it's unfortunate that shit's still going on. I mean, we're fighting, and basically that it's this sign, the way that we looked at it and the way that I was coming at it, it's very much and I feel like a lot of my practice is like that. It's a spiritual, it's a prayer, it's a way of healing. It's opening up another portal of
Mm-hmm.
freedom, and just kind of lighting that sign up for about an hour.
Yeah.
That's that moment of meditation.
Yeah. I mean, I think of, like you said, healing, meditation. It's also an intervention, right, into the public sphere. And if anyone who's been, down to the Mart, I mean, I was always struck by, wow, there's another plane again. Wow. Oh, wow. Like there's another plane flying, and how much, you know, people obviously look down when they're looking outside the, when you're flying into the city, you're looking down, you're looking, I always trying to find my house or other places, and how that sign, both as, an object created together with artists and community, but is also an intervention, and like you said, is putting out an important message, right? That's not trying to shy away from the fact, Black Lives Matter, and here you are coming into our city, and now
Word. Yeah, yeah. It's
and I
just
think it's
like,
really beautiful, um, to see that you are all kind of coming together, part of that is your practice, and it's also just the work of doing work with other people and looking at those priorities and those investments and seeing how you could organize and build more space, right?
Yeah, definitely taking up space,
Taking up space, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always telling my students is like allow yourself to take up some space, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
be large with your sculptures if you need to, I have one student that actually I introduced Dulce's work and with the bolsas, the Ricardo bags, and I was like, yeah, just go wild. And I was like, I can't wait to show Dulce this chair that she's creating, like so like yeah, it's kind of like allowing ourselves to do that, because I mean I feel like I grew up in an environment where like I was just like nah, just stay in your place, just like nah,
Mm-hmm.
fuck it, I'm gonna do my thing,
Right. Instead of, keep your head down and just do your work and do your work good, how can we break beyond that and not be limited to that kind of thinking and that politic? I feel the last thing that we didn't really talk about, and I'm wondering if you want to think about it in relation to some of
Sure.
the images we've shown, of course, is your Domingo project, which is ongoing still, right? Ongoing, on
Yeah, I mean
hiatus. You want to talk a
it's
little bit?
ongoing, parked, it's parked, it's dropped, it's grounded. But this is a project that actually I did during my undergrad at the University of San Diego. I
Mm-hmm.
got a grant to just start this project, and it was very much inspired by Voz Alta. It's like, how can we create another space? How can we use this space? And I ended up not collaborating with Voz Alta. I just kind of that was so long ago that I don't remember, but I started up the space called Untitled Space because I didn't have a title for it, but I knew that I wanted to use it for art, either like a gallery space, a project space, an experimental space, and basically calling it. Actually, my mentor at USD said like, yeah, this is like a rolling social sculpture. I was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Yeah, it is a rolling social sculpture, like thinking about like the history of rat rods, the history of lowriders, bombas, like when I see those cars, those are sculptures. Like the
Mm-hmm.
care that they put into it, the detail.
Yeah.
And this is actually parked in San Diego at Qualcomm Stadium when they have the Cruise for a Cause with Xavier at 92.5, the magic, and like I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna like park my car next to these other lowriders. I'm gonna put myself in this position and like I made part of it. That's where the poetics of labor we were talking about is just like, doing the mechanic, doing the fundraising, and I had some support from my friends, and I'm really thankful for their help. But sometimes, like working by yourself, it can get to your head, like you're just like, oh, this is too much work. And the more and more like I work collaboratively, and especially folks that I love, and start to create a bond and trust, and like it gets easier. So like this type of project was calling for that, and I put it on a pause
Mm-hmm.
after I did a grant with in San Diego. I worked with the New Children's Museum on there, and I just felt like I had to reevaluate the purpose of this project. And now we're in the moment where like I'm like, hey, I got to bring this up because like the building that we have is like in the style of the 1960s, and this is a 1967 Chevy step van. It's dropped, it has airbags, the roof is cut out, it has faldas on the side, like it's like, this is like this is my low and slow vehicle, like you can't go fast because this thing, you just can't, you know what I mean? You just can't.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to see like the projects that are coming, and I renamed it to Domingo Projects because when I was in San Diego, I had my studio in City Heights, and someone left behind Domingo, a sign that said had Domingo, and I was just like, yeah, you know what, like I grew up in a Catholic family. We would have to go to church, and that type of thing. But the more and more like I started to get involved in my own practice, started to see this practice as a spiritual practice, coming in
Mm.
on Sundays and, just being creative. And,
Right.
I just felt like, yeah, you know what, this is Domingo projects, like I want people to see that Sunday, yeah, day of rest, I get that, whatever. But, it's a creative day, you know what I mean? Like it's a day for you. And like for me, it's about working in my studio and doing my own thing, and whatever that may look like. If I'm just kind of sitting there in the chair staring at the wall or drawing, or actually just like cleaning or making work, whatever that may be, but it's just taking that self-care.
Yeah, the Mingo project. So you're thinking it through right now, seeing what's gonna go down, maybe
Yeah.
different iterations in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to also working with my partner, Anna Briz. She's going to be keep doing a lot of curation, and also with the Dairy Mart, just kind of like brainstorming what kind of, what can happen in this space. And now that I'm more involved with like performance, I'm like, I'm gonna hit up my homies. Like, hey man, what do you see? Crawling in this space. There's just so many possibilities. Like
Have
coming out
exhibitions in the
underneath.
space, performances in the space.
You
Uh,
know,
what else? Fundraiser in the space. Maybe there's a lot of possibilities.
fundraiser. And yeah, I mean, maybe we're just gonna be cooking some tacos in the back too. I mean, that's something. Whatever it is, like and being here in Los Angeles, like there is that culture of food
Hmm.
trucks, and like I'm constantly taking photos with my cell phone of just different trucks that I see. The ice cream truck that comes here in my neighborhood that has like this bright fluorescent, you could see it, when it's dark, just kind of like glowing. I'm like, man, that's just so cool. And it's going slow. And then like you see all the kids kind of come out, get their ice cream. It just, and then folks that have like, like their own murals on the side, the Virgin Mary, it's, just like,
Right.
I saw this one that was really cool that had like, like those, those doors for your front door. That's actually like a gate.
Hmm.
Is that, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm describing it right, but it has like, it's metal, and, but they basically put it as part of the door. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like
Like a
that is
screen
so,
door.
like a screen door, yeah, but the metal one, I was just like, man, it's just like, it goes back to Squatcha, just like,
Hmm. Did I lose you? Are you there?
yeah, I'm here. I
Did I
just
get frozen?
pause it. No, sometimes, sometimes you want to joke around. My brother does this at times, and he'll like freeze on purpose, but he's not really frozen. But I did freeze up in the beginning.
Okay. No, then it told me that I wasn't using Instagram, which I don't know, but maybe the universe was intervening. I don't know.
Is it that
But
30-minute mark?
I know. Well, I guess so. I mean, I guess we got to wrap it up there. But you know what, Noe, thank you so much for coming on here and chatting for a little bit. And we got all your social accounts tagged, and everyone who's watching. Thank you for joining us, and keep tabs on Noe and Domingo Project and Crenshaw Dairy Mart, and all the different important work that you're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you, Joseph, and thank you everyone, for joining us, setting aside this time, just kind of like, just talk, shoot the shit.
I know. I feel
You
like
know?
the last time with Dulces, I thought, man, that 30 minutes is too short. But it's just a little time to connect and share it with other folks. So I'm grateful for
Yeah.
you to jump in on this with me, and yeah, we'll be in touch, I guess.
Yeah. I love
All
you,
right.
man.
Well, take
Thank
care,
you,
Noe. We'll be
everybody.
in touch, and thanks again, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.